Part 27. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 262. Sitting in the store manager's office, Shenjian is thinking about the follow-up plan. The main mission of the 4-star dungeon Bloody Paper Shop is consistent with the hidden mission he activated. All of them are to restore the customer flow of the Bloody Paper Shop and bring it back to its peak. It's just that the hidden missions are more difficult than the standard main missions. According to Shenjian's understanding, when the progress of the hidden task reaches about 50%, the game is almost over. After all, this is only a 4-star copy for 6 people. It is impossible for players to manage a large supernatural place until it is completely restored, otherwise it would not be called a mission. And his current progress has reached 45%. I estimate that it will be over completely in just a few days. Shenjian's fingers tapped on the table unconsciously. He knew that the reason why the mission progressed so quickly was related to his debt collection. The male Ghost King alone contributed 35% of the progress, plus the debt of the Tomb Ghost, the rectification of the funeral parlor, and the redcoat grade paper he sold. People, these are combined together to reach 45% of the process. If it were any other player, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to reach this level within 3 months. One can imagine the difficulty of the 4-star supernatural dungeon. The most difficult role-playing streaming mode among the 3-star dungeons only takes 1 or 2 months, while the 4-star dungeons only take 3 months to start. It's okay for idle players, but if a player like a city leader disappears for 3 months, will the city he is in still be stable? Shenjian was thoughtful. The higher the player's level, the more difficult it is to enter the supernatural dungeon, and the less control they have over the real world, making it increasingly difficult to distinguish it from the horror world. If the dungeon master of the supernatural land makes another promise, it would be like becoming the official disciple of the owner of the Bloody Paper Shop. Who can resist this temptation? And the closer you get to the horror world, the farther away you are from the real world. This is not a kind of NTR. Think of this. Shenjian grinned. Next, it's time to solve the problem of the Bloody Paper Shop and truly claim this 4-star dungeon as your own. Time flies. Night falls. The Bloody Paper Man was walking on his way home. He was originally a Tsingy level ghost. By chance, he became the apprentice of the owner of the Bloody Paper making shop because he was clever and knew how to flatter people. He successfully became the official disciple of his Ghost King. But this is not enough. He still has to climb higher. Then, he chose to try the experiment of formatting himself for the Ghost King and giving up his entire body. And the result is obvious, he succeeded. Successfully transformed into a paper man's body formed by the curse. This is different from the ordinary paper man body. The body is replaced with supernatural paper. The body of the paper man made from this paper can carry the supernatural powers from the ghosts. The higher the level of paper cutting, the more supernatural powers the body can produce. But the shortcomings are also very obvious. The cap is locked. He will not be able to continue to increase his supernatural powers throughout his life. But his body was different. This was made not from cut paper, but from a curse. This is a paper body formed by a curse. The biggest advantage is that it not only has the characteristics of the paper man changing its body at will and transferring supernatural damage, but also retains room for advancement. And he once heard an unintentional remark from his master, the source of this curse comes from a supreme ghost and god. The Bloody Paper Man's heart was agitated. He doesn't expect any ghosts and gods, but if he can be promoted to the Ghost King, then no one can challenge his status in the Bloody Paper Shop. There will be no chance that the store manager's position will be taken away. When he thought about that human being, he was so angry that his teeth itched. While thinking, he came to a corner. Boom! A black scythe fell suddenly and struck towards his head. Bloody paper man. He was horrified. What's the situation? Someone attacked him. A sneak attack on him by a top-notch red-clad ghost? In a subconscious reaction, the bloody paper man raised his hand to block. Zilla. The sound of paper being torn resounded in the night sky. The bloody paper man's eyes widened, looking at his body that was split into two parts. The inner horror has reached a peak threshold. Who is it? Who is it? Who has the ability to cut him in half with one knife? Are you surprised? In the dark, a dark figure holding a scythe came out. Under the pale moonlight, the face of the black figure was clearly visible. It was Shen Jian. You. The bloody paper man was horrified. He never expected that this human being would be so bold as to attack him openly. Isn't he afraid of clues traced back to the bloody paper-making shop, and isn't he afraid of the paper-making ghost king behind him? That was an abyss-level ghost. He roared inwardly. But being dismembered in half at once, all his life-saving tools were useless. He could only watch helplessly as Shen Jian approached him. You can't kill me. My body has the same origin as the Zhiza Ghost King. If you kill me, he will feel it. The terror of an abyss-level ghost is something that a humble human being like you cannot experience. You will definitely. I will regret what you did today. The bloody paper man screamed sharply. The paper man's body ensured that he would not freeze immediately. As long as his body was replaced in time, he could revive on the spot, but obviously, he did not have this chance. I usually don't go out of my way to attack a ghost. You are the first, so you should feel honored. Shen Jian grinned and looked very kind. The ghost sickle swung out again. The bloody paper man was dismembered into countless pieces. Completely plunged into deep despair. The body of the bloody paper man and the paper ghost king have the same origin, and they can sense each other. This is really wonderful. Originally, he was still thinking about how to lure the other party out without alerting MRSUyi. Now it seems that he doesn't need to worry. Solve it once and for all, and then go comfort MRSUyi who lost her husband. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 263. The moment when the bloody paper man dies. A scarlet panel emerged. A mutation has been detected in the copy, and the owner of the copy is about to join. The main mission has been updated. Main Mission 1, Escape from the Zhiza Ghost King and survive for 3 days. Content, the Zhiza Ghost King steals the power of ghosts and gods, and obtains the supernatural curse of ferrying ghosts and gods. The curse comes from the same source and can sense each other to trace the real culprit. Note, the scope of player activities is limited to the Winter Advent area. While sleeping, all 4 players woke up. Looking at the prompt above the scarlet panel, everyone was dumbfounded. It's so good, why does the dungeon master want to join? If they remembered correctly, the dungeon owner of the bloody paper shop was an abyss-level ghost above the Ghost King. This level of terrifying existence was not at all the level of difficulty that a 4-star dungeon should have. From the player's perspective, this is a boss that serves as a backdrop. It won't show up at all. But now, the boss has actually appeared in person. Escaped from an abyss-level ghost and survived for 3 days. Are you sure this isn't a joke? Including Zhang Suzi, all players felt despair. Not to mention that the scope of activities is limited to the Winter Advent area, but what if it is expanded to the entire horror world? With their level, is it possible that they can still visit the entire Winterland area? 4-star players are indeed one of the few great masters in the real world. They are the first echelon of ghost masters in the Yang world, and they are the seniors at the forefront of the supernatural world. But in the horror world, a 4-star player is comparable to a red-clad ghost. And it doesn't have the terrifying deterrent power of a red-clothed ghost. You can protect yourself, but everything else is delusional. If you want to avoid the attack of an abyss-level ghost in the extremely dangerous Winterland area for 3 full days, it would be better to kill them directly in a horror game, while the player is in a daze. Shen Jian also saw the Scarlet Panel prompt. However, compared to other players' escape missions, he has one more task. It is detected that the player owns 10% of the shares of the Bloody Paper Shop, and the second main quest can be activated. Main Mission 2, kill the Zhiza Ghost King to inherit the shares owned by the opponent. Note, the paper-making Ghost King owns 50% of the shares and is the owner of the first copy of the Bloody Paper-making Shop. Shen Jian was thoughtful. You don't need to have complete control over the Bloody Paper Shop to become the master of the dungeon. This is a new idea. He thought of the 4 processes of the hidden mission. Each time you complete a progress, you can get 10% of the shares. If you complete the hidden mission perfectly, you can own 40% of the shares. Plus the 50% in the hands of the Ghost King, that is 90% shares. The remaining 10% should be with MRSUyi. As long as MRSUyi still sides with Zhiza Ghost King, he doesn't need to worry about his position as the master of the copy being taken away. Moreover, even if they instigate MRSUyi's rebellion, the shares held by each of them would be equal to 50%. What matters in the end is strength. From this point of view, as long as the Zhiza Ghost King is killed, his shares will be as high as 60%, and becoming the master of the dungeon is a sure thing. A smile appeared on Shen Jian's face. The reason why he was still not familiar with the information of the horror world, otherwise he would have known that killing the Zhiza Ghost King would allow him to inherit the opponent's shares. On the first day when the 2 parties met, he dared to take action. Under night, Shen Jian's figure escaped into the darkness. The other side. The Zhiza Ghost King, who was worrying about his daughter's supernatural recovery, froze. His eyes suddenly turned cold. A creepy supernatural wave swept around him. Court death. Apparently, he sensed the death of the Bloody Paper Man. He is a supernatural paper man formed by a curse. He can sense the activity of the curse in the Bloody Paper Man's body. This feeling is wonderful, as if he is controlling his second body from the other person's perspective. Therefore, he has always regarded the Bloody Paper Man as his own. But just now, the Bloody Paper Man died. The cursed spirit transmitted from the other party's body also began to lose its activity. No hesitation. He looked for it. But I met an unexpected person. A human being. The manager of the Bloody Paper Shop. The breath on your body. The Zhiza Ghost King was stunned for a moment, and then his pupils widened. It's you are the human who killed my daughter. His tone became extremely sinister. At first, he felt that this human voice was very similar to the one he heard before, but there was no trace of him on the other person, so he couldn't be sure for a while. Coupled with his wife's reliance on this human being, he chose to let this human being go. But now, at a glance, the other person is clearly the murderer of his daughter. It's just that I didn't know what method was used to cover up this aura before. Humans, you are very courageous. I have told you that as soon as you step into the Winterland area, you will be dead. The Zhiza Ghost King had a ferocious smile on his face. A dark blood flame appeared on the face of the terrifying ghost, which was no different from a normal ghost. What was burning in the blood flame was not fire, but a curse. That is the supernatural power belonging to a ghost and God. A trace was stolen by him. Created a supernatural paper man body formed entirely from curses. A trace of disgust flashed in Shen Jian's eyes, but he still asked with hope, can you still change back? What? I mean, can you still return to your true form? The Ghost King breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that he didn't expect that this human being's regret before dying would be this. He, what's so good about Li Gui's body? Only a paper man can live forever. In order to draw fuel from the bottom of the cauldron, I sent the body directly into the cremator and burned it to ashes. The same goes for you, human being. I will refine you. Make a cursed paper man, imprison you in the body of the paper man, and then let you watch your body being burned with your own eyes. The Zaghost king spoke. Now, do you feel like your eyes are on fire? A gloomy voice sounded. The supernatural power from the curse begins to take effect. This curse comes from a ghost and god. It is so supernatural that it can only be resisted. If you can't resist, you will die. There is no second possibility. Hear this. The disgust in Shen Jian's eyes deepened. You can even see obvious changes in his face. It was a deep disappointment and anger. Burn it? You actually burned my performance. Shen Jian's eyes turned red. He began to think about using paper to pierce the Ghost King's body to unlock the 14th level of hell. Now the other party told him that his body was burned. Then wouldn't his plan come to nothing in a bamboo basket? Damn it! This paper-threaded Ghost King deserves to be damned. Paper stick Ghost King? No. I'm burning my own body. Why are you so angry? I don't know, I thought it was yours that was burned. He didn't understand the human brain circuit. But the supernatural power was already activated, and he was waiting to see how this human being would wail in pain. 10 seconds passed. The human didn't react. 30 seconds passed. Still no response. A minute passed. There was a hint of impatience evident on the human's face. The sinister expression on the Zaghost King's face froze. What happened? This is a curse from a ghost, and then launched by one of his abyss-level ghosts. The supernatural attack can even suppress a top Ghost King. How could there be nothing wrong with this human being? Etc. The quality of this human yin energy. The Zaghost King's pupils shrank. Abyss level. The quality of this human's yin qi is actually on the same level as him. The same is the abyss level. Impossible. The Zaghost King was immediately shocked. How could a human being have an abyss level of terror? Humans can only control powerful ghosts, and if they want to reach the abyss level, they must control 180 powerful ghost puzzles, in which case they may be able to reach the abyss level. But this is a possibility that even ghosts, not to mention humans, can't achieve. The only possibility is that this human being controls a very terrifying ghost. The top Ghost King with no solution level? No. If you want humans to reach the abyss level, the Ghost King is not qualified yet. It must be a supernatural puzzle from ghosts and gods. The thought of this. The Ghost King was stunned. Master the ghosts and gods puzzle? What a joke. He felt that he was already crazy enough to dare to steal the power of ghosts and gods even at the abyss level. But compared to the puzzle of ghosts and gods, the power of ghosts and gods is nothing. One is the other party's thin supernatural power, and the other is part of the other party's body. There is no comparison between the two. And this human being not only dares to think, but also seems to have mastered the puzzle of ghosts and gods. You. This moment. The Zaghost King's expression turned frightened. They were both at the abyss level, but the other party was suspected of controlling the ghost and god puzzle, and did not respond to his supernatural attacks. From this look, it was clear that the supernatural power was ineffective due to the huge disparity in supernatural power. It will only appear when low-level ghosts leapfrog their levels and use supernatural powers on top-level ghosts. He, who is at the abyss level, also has this characteristic. This kind of supernatural ineffectiveness will occur when a fierce ghost below the level of red clothes attacks him. But we are both at the abyss level. Is it too much for you to show me psychic neutralization? Are my supernatural attacks the same as tickling you? The Ghost King was very unwilling. A face that has been distorted beyond appearance. Then. Turn around and run. Shen Jian was stunned for a moment. It wasn't because of the paper jamming of the Ghost King, but because after a brief moment of anger, he suddenly thought of a new idea. If it can be done, this trip to the dungeon will not be in vain. While thinking, the Ghost King had already escaped dozens of meters away. Haha. Accepting your own death calmly may not be a kind of bravery. Shen Jian took his time and took out a seal from his body. Underworld weapon evil suppressing seal, exclusively for Judge Wu Zongkui. Introduce : Seal of suppression of evil, one of the underworld weapons owned by Judge Wu Zongkui. With one seal, ghosts and gods can be suppressed. Go. Shen Jian said to himself. The seal that was originally just the size of a palm suddenly swelled in size at this moment, and the simple and worn-out surface suddenly exuded a suffocating supernatural oppression. Even the three ghosts controlled by Shen Jian, namely Ghost Eye, Shadow Ghost, and Wishing Ghost Tattoo, felt it. There was an almost suffocating sense of oppression. Ghost Eye, Master, Master, protect me, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. The 6 scarlet blood eyes became frightened at this moment and shouted for help. After Shen Jian exorcised, the shadow of endless darkness shrank at this moment, clinging to Shen Jian's trousers, hiding behind Shen Jian, shivering. The Wishing Ghost Tattoo has a devilish face, which also reveals the utmost fear. Will die. Under the cover of this square seal, even ghosts and gods will be crushed into pulp. Terrible. This human being is too, oh no, the master is too mighty. The other side. Feeling this terrifying supernatural fluctuation, the Ghost King looked horrified. It's okay for a human being to possess a puzzle piece of ghosts and gods. Why does he have such a terrifying ghost weapon? Could it be that he inherited all the property of a ghost? No, give me a chance, I want to be a good person. The Ghost King looked at the seal that was about to be pressed, and shouted in fear. Shen Jian walked slowly over and said. You are still a Ghost King after all. Go away with dignity. I will definitely take care of my wife for you. It is such a waste of natural resources for my wife to be left in the boudoir at such a young age. As the saying goes, I will support your wife on my own, so you have nothing to worry about. Paper Stick Ghost King. Hear this. He was shaking all over. A pair of eyes has turned red. He opened his mouth and shouted the most vicious curse. As soon as I die, the cursed spirit will return to the body of the ferrying ghosts and gods. Everything that happens here will be known to the ghosts and gods. You have a ghost and god puzzle on your body. These hungry ghosts and gods will definitely swallow you. After the Ghost King said these words, he thought he could scare Shen Jian, or at least leave a permanent psychological shadow on him. Who knows the man in front of me? His 2 eyes lit up obviously, and the excitement on his face could hardly be concealed. Will everything that happens here be known? Are ghosts and gods coming? Is it true? Great, there are several addresses of my home. Please remember it quickly. Villa No 001, Wangjiao District, Fengqing Street, Real World. If you can't find it, go to one of the Villa of the Past, Sweet Home, Community of the Past, or the Bloody Paper Shop. Look for me everywhere. My phone number is, and my ID number is. Speaking of which, the human seemed to have restrained the gradually widening of his mouth and narrowed the width of his smile, trying to show a hint of panic and fear. However, he didn't know if it was an illusion, but the Ghost King felt that the other person's expression was even more terrifying. It is a kind of restraint that wants to hunt ghosts and gods, but does not want the ghosts and gods to be too scared to come over. He saw. Shen Jian gradually walked over. It seemed that he wanted to look more carefully so that he could remember his appearance. This weird violation made him completely confused. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 264. Seeing Shenjian's approaching footsteps and his detailed self-introduction down to the house number, he just needed a step-by-step instruction on how to find the way. This weird violation gave his ghost king an illusion. This human seems to be afraid that the fairy ghosts and gods will not find him. The ghost king was stunned. At a certain moment, he felt that in Shenjian's eyes, he was no longer a ghost, but a medium. He was panicked. Want to escape from this weird human being. He even wanted to go back and remind his wife that this human being had evil intentions towards him and she must not fall into his beauty trap. But, looking at a simple seal hanging above his head, blocking out the sky and the sun, a suffocating supernatural pressure rolled over him. Let alone escaping, even moving his feet seemed extremely difficult. Under the cover of this seal, his body bent unconsciously, as if he was worshipping this ghost weapon. Shenjian approached. The originally disgusted and angry face suddenly became kind. Squatting down, patting the pale face of the paper-stuck ghost king, he said patiently, "Just like this, will the fairy ghosts and gods you mentioned see all this? Do you need me to repeat this? After all, long-distance communication circuits sometimes problems may arise, and if some key information is missed, wouldn't the other party get lost?" Paper Stick Ghost King. Why can you imagine that ghosts and gods are lost? How afraid are you that ghosts and gods won't be able to find you? He was already filled with horror and fear. Something was wrong with this human being. There is an evil nature in him. It makes ghosts crawl. In order to strengthen his courage, his ghost king suppressed the horror and swallowed, "Human, see the blood flames burning on my body. It is a trace of the power of ghosts and gods that I have stolen through all the hard work. And that lord, named Tab, fairy. That gentleman is the ferryman of souls and the master of the river of the past. He has been sleeping in the deepest ghost realm all year round. The blood flames on my body are burning with the curse of that gentleman. Once I die, the supernatural power will disappear. It will return to its owner's body and show all the last recorded information to that adult. As for you, you have mastered the ghost and god puzzle and inherited the legacy of a ghost and god. That adult will definitely become interested in you and will wake up from the deep ghost realm to hunt you." His ghost king's tone was a little sinister. Trying to save his own life in this way. According to normal people's approach, even if they would not let him go at this time, they would only imprison him. They would definitely not dare to kill him unless it was absolutely necessary. But he couldn't be sure about the somewhat evil human being in front of him. "Oh, this is the camera." Shenjian reached out to his ghost king, grabbed the burning blood flame with his bare hands, and looked at it carefully. Paper Stick Ghost King. Hum. Hum. His pupils shrank and his scalp felt numb. Grabbing the power of ghosts and gods with your bare hands, why don't you kick your right foot and left foot and go directly to the sky? He was shocked and speechless. "I can only watch." "And the other side?" Shenjian thought for a moment and immediately had an idea. He took out the magic pen from his body. The soul enchanting pen is not only the only tool that can write on the book of life and death, but can also write on all tangible and intangible objects without fading. Soon, Shenjian wrote various detailed addresses, his name, mobile phone number, ID number, and how to contact him on the cursed blood flame. The supernatural blood flame that was originally filled with darkness, fear, and wailing was suddenly turned into a letter home by Shenjian. "See this scene?" Shenjian showed a relieved smile and let go of Swayan. The blood flame immediately returned to his ghost king's eye sockets like a frightened little rabbit, sizzling and burning. It's just that the burning supernatural being was densely covered with various black writings, which directly blocked his sight. Paper Stick Ghost King. "Hey, The happy time is always short-lived. It's time for you to return to the embrace of your true body. Remember to take my letter of condolence back. Shen Jian took one last look at the other party and stood up. Hear this. The face of the Zhiza Ghost King was stiff. This human being was really determined to have a chance encounter with the ghosts and gods. His threat only accelerated his own death. Gan, how could there be such hateful human beings in this world? Before he could finish his inner monologue, Shen Jian dismembered him into countless parts. A ball of fire like supernatural beings also entered the void and disappeared. Shen Jian was a little reluctant to leave. After this separation, I don't know when we will meet again. I miss you so much. Shen Jian sighed. The paper-made body of the Ghost King was stuffed into a sack. He could still use paper to tie up the corpse of the Ghost King. He wants to use it to test an idea. Soon, the scarlet panel emerged. It is detected that the Zhiza Ghost King is dead, and the second main task is completed. Players. Did they win? This round of game has ended. Congratulations to the player for clearing the Bloody Paper Shop dungeon. The copy is being settled. Rating, S. Experience gained, 600%. Note, you have been promoted to level 40. Item obtained, Thriller Coin * 5000. Get special rewards, Bloody Paper Shop. Note, player King Yama kills the Ghost King of Papermaking, obtains 50% of the shares of the Bloody Papermaking Shop, inherits the blood-colored papermaking shop, and becomes the owner of the first dungeon. Get a special reward, ferrying the coveted spirits of ghosts and gods. Note, due to the outstanding performance of the players, the fairy ghosts and gods woke up from their slumber and showed full curiosity towards you. They are trying to escape from the deep ghost realm and descend into the horror world. Get special reward, 4-star copy permission. Note, players have reached level 40, 4-star dungeons have been opened, and new maps have been unlocked. Please explore on your own. Real world. Shen Jian opened his eyes. Look at the game information above. Get thoughtful. The fairy ghost god paid attention to him, which was not surprising. After all, he even gave him his home address, but the second half of the game introduction was a bit intriguing. Try to escape from the deep ghost world and descend into the horror world. What this means is that the reason why ghosts and gods fall into deep sleep is not that of their own accord, but that they are forced to fall into deep sleep and enter the deep ghost realm. And this ghost realm is a kind of restraint to ghosts and gods, so the word try is used. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. In a horror world, are ghosts and gods not allowed to appear in these areas? This is a new statement. See this. Shen Jian could only suppress the matter. Instead, I looked at the biggest gain from this trip. Bloody Paper Shop. Successor, King Yama, 60%. It is detected that the owner of the copy is a human, and the following permissions will be unlocked. 1. The player is in the Bloody Paper Shop, and his strength automatically increases by 1 level. He can take away 30% of the thriller coins produced, and the rest is used as dungeon funds. 2. It is detected that this copy is a large-scale 4-star supernatural place. Players can give one-person management authority, adjust the prices of goods, and formulate rules. 3. 2 world passages can be opened, limit, 10 people. Available dungeons, Funeral Parlor Horror, 3 stars, Bloody Paper Shop, 4 stars. Compared with all previous large-scale supernatural dungeons, the Bloody Paper Shop is undoubtedly more valuable. Either a 3-star or a 4-star copy. And it has more authority. Even the passage between the two realms can accommodate 10 ghosts entering and exiting. Finished harvesting. Shen Jian went to the underworld. He wanted to verify his conjecture. The underworld. Shen Jian put out the paper man corpse of the Ghost King. The regret in his eyes was still very obvious. Originally, by the end of his trip, he should be able to unlock the 14th level of hell, but does his Ghost King's behavior of transforming himself into a paper man ruined his plan. But it doesn't matter. He has other uses. And it might be better this way. It can also make up for the staff vacancies in the underworld. Fall. Shen Jian threw out the evil suppressing seal, and with the thought, the simple seal turned into a hill in the sky and crashed down. Completely eliminate the Zhiza Ghost King. Shen Jian closed his eyes. Looking for something. The Ghost King with paper sticks died in the underworld and was marked by the underworld. The Song Emperor's ability to communicate yin and yang can be borrowed from these abilities and magical powers during his lifetime, so that one person can be the master of all things. Soon. Shen Jian showed a smile. Found it? The current underworld is incomplete and he cannot mark others, but if he dies in the underworld will instinctively mark him. He was right. And what he is borrowing now is the paper tying technique of the Ghost King. With the increase in the heart of ghosts and gods, he is now a paper tying master, possessing more proficient paper tying skills than MRSUyi. He has not forgotten that if he wants to conquer this beautiful girl, the best way to break through is to teach her the paper tying technique. It's a pity that he didn't know anything about paper tying techniques at that time, and his suggestion of guidance was even more nonsense. But it's different now. He possesses the paper-making technique that the Ghost King has been studying all his life. He is a paper-making master who is more proficient in paper-making than MRSUyi. In some ways, he can really guide the other person. In addition, he has become the dungeon master of the Bloody Paper Shop and has mastered this 4-star supernatural dungeon. With a two-pronged approach, it is not difficult to attack the opponent. He was short of 4 of his quota of 10 fierce ghosts. MRSUyi and Zhou didn't know which one would be attacked by her first. Shen Jian was ready to make a move. Just do it. The moment you return to the real world, you enter the world of horror again. Horror World Bloody Paper Shop. It was still late at night. The huge movement attracted the attention of many ghosts, but no one dared to poke their heads out to observe the situation. They only knew that one of the voices was the owner of the bloody paper making shop. But until the movement stopped, no ghost dared to come out to check. All huddled at home. No hesitation. Shen Jian walked to the courtyard behind the paper shop. I saw a house lit by candlelight. Candlelight lit up the room. Through the white paper window, you can see a graceful body sitting beside the bed, playing with the unformed paper doll in her hands. Shen Jian's eyes moved. He pushed open the door and broke in. The fragrant wind blows towards my face. The fragrance of orchid fills the air. A face not covered by the white gauze came into view. She has a plump and curvy body, which looks even more attractive against the backdrop of a white plain dress. Her facial features are exquisite, her round goose face is rosy, and her black hair is tied on top of her head, giving her the impression of a famous lady. There is even a little mole in the corner of the eye, which makes her look even more charming. Sensing someone intruding, MRSUyi stopped what she was doing, her eyes fell on Shen Jian, a bit of surprise flashed in her eyes. Why are you here? Do you need something important? Shen Jian looked sad. Madam, I just heard the comments outside. It is said that the boss lost, and now the person is gone. Of course, Shen Jian didn't say a word. You are also a widow. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 265. The expected reaction did not occur. Upon hearing the news that the Zhiza Ghost King might be dead, MRSUyi frowned at first, and then said very calmly, I understand. Seeing the surprise in Shen Jian's eyes, MRSUyi thought for a while and explained, it's normal for you to be new here and not know this. The relationship between me and him has long been in name only, especially when he supports my daughter to give up her true body and transform. After becoming a girl, he is no longer a husband in my eyes. Disciples who have been around for a long time know these things, but you don't want to spread them outside. I suspect that what happened today is related to the taboos he was exposed to. I don't want the bloody paper shop to be affected. Shen Jian's eyes flashed. It seemed that the introduction of Netherworld Eye was far more accurate than he imagined. It is said that the two of them have no feelings anymore, but it is really a relationship between strangers. And Ms. Suyi seemed to have mistaken what happened tonight as ghosts and gods punishing the Ghost King. No wonder she could still stay in her room and make paper dolls despite all the noise. On the one hand, she was really done with the Zhiza Ghost King. On the other hand, naturally I want to protect this place. Thinking. Ms. Suyi asked softly, "Are you interested in the art of paper tying? I am very satisfied with you and would like to know if you are willing to learn the art of paper tying. I can teach you." Shen Jian glanced at the paper doll in the other person's hand. With all the paper tying Ghost King's paper tying skills, he could easily tell that this was not the paper figurine for sale in the bloody paper tying shop, but a specially customized paper figurine body. It is for guests of the funeral home. But from his point of view, the finished product is not very good. But this is normal. The paper tying process is divided into two major branches: paper making and paper making. The former is to make a paper man ghost, and the latter is to make a paper man body. What Ms. Suyi has mastered is the paper tying technique. The paper making Ghost King mastered the art of paper making. Shen Jian didn't answer and asked instead, "Madam, are you customizing paper mannequin bodies for the guests of the funeral home?" Ms. Suyi was stunned. Being able to see this means that Shen Jian must have some foundation in him. This is better. She nodded slightly and said, "Yes, I heard that you also worked in a funeral parlor, so you should know how many ghosts are waiting to change their bodies. Even though I have worked hard to make it, the progress is still touching. I hope you can learn something from it. Chen, help me relieve the pressure." When she said this, her tone was complaining. Although she has a very docile personality, she is also very angry at the Zhiza Ghost King's approach of leaving all matters to her. But the bloody paper shop is also one of her passions. She couldn't just watch this place go bankrupt. "Madam, my paper tying skills are pretty good, barely comparable to your husband's. I think I can help you now." Shen Jian took a step forward. Ms. Suyi blinked her beautiful eyes and couldn't believe her ears. But soon, she smiled and expressed disbelief. "If you really had such great paper tying skills, you wouldn't be here. It is a recognized fact that there are only 2 paper making masters in the entire Winterland area. How could a third person suddenly run out? And still a human being." However, her attitude towards Shen Jian was very friendly and she was not angry. "See it?" Shen Jian was not surprised either. He reached out and took out the corresponding supernatural cutting paper from the table beside him, and said with a smile, "I wonder what kind of work Madam would like me to make? Rose, ring, necklace, or geoduck?" Ms. Suyi. She ignored these items and looked directly at Shen Jian's serious face. This human seemed to really intend to demonstrate the paper tying technique in her hands. Just an ordinary paper man. After listening, Shen Jian felt a little regretful. That was no ordinary geoduck, but the geoduck in Wang Wei's poem. But regrets are regrets, the movements of his hands are not slow at all. With the powerful ability borrowed by Emperor Song and the increase of the heart of ghosts and gods, at this time, he was possessed by the paper-made Ghost King in his peak period, and he started making effortlessly. The lady in Suyi beside her had her eyes wide open and her little cherry mouth slightly opened. She simply couldn't believe what she saw in front of her. Soon, a half-step red-clothed paper figurine ghost was stabbed out by Shen Jian. MRSUE suddenly raised her head, with a hint of surprise on her face. Using ordinary supernatural paper cutting to create a half-step red-clad paper figurine, this skill is enough to deserve the title of paper-making master. MRS Jean Lan. Current status: shocked, surprised, happy. Favorability: add 10, 40 friendly. You really are a master of paper making. MRS Suyi's eyes were strange and she looked at Shen Jian in surprise. You learned the paper tying technique. Shen Jian shook his head. I am more proficient in paper making. Just like the paper doll in your hand, it has many flaws. If you give this paper doll body to customers, the signature of the bloody paper making shop will be gone. Then can you teach me? MRS Suyi's eyes were shining. She had always wanted to learn paper making skills, but her husband had refused to teach her, so she could only explore alone. The smile in Shen Jian's eyes grew wider. This beautiful lady's obsession with paper tying art is truly extraordinary. You want to learn? But I can't teach you in vain. You have to pay something. I believe you don't want to miss the opportunity to learn paper tying skills, madam. Shen Jian said, waiting for the other party's reaction. MRS Suyi pondered for a moment. Several core technologies were mentioned on his face. In the end, they were all rejected by Shen Jian. This made MRS Suyi a little disappointed. Besides these, you should be involved in other aspects of technology. I really don't have any technology that can be traded. No, ma'am, you do. Shen Jian said solemnly. That's the master tongue-tied rope technique, and I want to learn that. Tongue-tied. Hear this. MRS Suyi was stunned at first, and then a blush flashed across her face. Who told you this? It's just a useless skill to you. Shen Jian remained calm. I've heard about it too, and I've never learned this technology before. I want to learn it. Naturally, it was impossible for him to tell the story that the cold female dean had taught him this technique. Otherwise, the plan of best friends to have a family fun will be ruined from the beginning. Do you really want to learn this? MRS Suyi confirmed for the last time. Shen Jian nodded. Okay, I'll teach you. Hear this. Shen Jian continued, okay, madam, I will teach you how to make a better paper doll first. Just use the one in your hand to make modifications. Without any explanation, Shen Jian took the initiative to come to MRS Suyi and grasped her white jade hand in an extremely affectionate manner. A burst of orchids hit her nostrils and filled her heart. MRS Suyi froze. She was somewhat resistant to this kind of physical contact. But Shen Jian's words had already sounded first, madam, don't be distracted and focus on me, otherwise you will miss the point. These words forced her to turn her attention back to the paper doll. But smelling this special smell of living human yang energy, she felt extremely uneasy inside. It had been a long time since she had been in contact with a man. With such a strong male yang energy on her side, her mind was inevitably shaken. Even her favorite paper tying technique was in front of her, and she couldn't fully concentrate. Glancing at Shen Jian from the corner of his eye, he saw that the other party was very serious about modifying her defective products. It didn't look like he was deliberately taking advantage. Think about it this way. Her expression darkened again. Yes. She is already an old woman who has raised a daughter. Which handsome young man in his prime of life would fall in love with an older woman like her? What's more, Shen Jian is still a human being. The aesthetics are different from those of Li Gui. It's strange to fall in love with an old woman like her. Maybe she is really sensitive. A little relieved. She focused all her energy on paper dolls. Taught all night. Until dawn, MRS Suyi's eyes were still excited. This night's study was worthy of her years of exploration. She was excited. She didn't notice at all that after a night of teaching, her and Shen Jian's postures became a little ambiguous. The two approached each other, one behind the other. Shen Jian grabbed her hand. She leaned on Shen Jian's broad arms. Sometimes through casual contact, you can feel each other's temperature. Just like a man and woman falling in love. But she didn't pay attention at the time. When the lecture ended, the woman in plain clothes suddenly felt something strange. Especially the arms that were broad enough to hug both of her were resting on her body. They were solid, powerful, and full of security, making people want to lean into his arms. Her cheeks were a little flushed. "You go back first." Ms. Suyi stood up, straightened her wrinkled plain clothes, and said in a panic. Shen Jian's eyes moved. Ms. Jean Lan. Current status, panic, shy, worried. Favorability, 61, ambiguous. Seeing that the initial intimacy between boyfriend and girlfriend had been reached, Shen Jian understood that the purpose of tonight had been achieved. At a time like this, it's time to exit. If you act too hastily, it will arouse the other party's vigilance. Let the good feelings go down. Shen Jian acted as if nothing had happened, but before leaving, he still asked, "Then the next lecture?" Ms. Suyi's face showed confusion. She still has a lot she wants to learn. It would be difficult for her to give up now. But if we continue like last night, we are alone and it is easy for us to make mistakes. But after many years of longing for paper making, she finally decided to keep Shen Jian and continue to teach and educate herself. "You, come over again tonight, don't let others see it, otherwise you won't be able to explain clearly." Ms. Suyi whispered. Shen Jian smiled calmly. Faced with such an offer, no man could refuse. "I see." Shen Jian said. "Turn around and leave." Looking at Shen Jian's back, this famous lady who had always lived in a deep house and rarely appeared in the public eye was disturbed in her heart like the breeze blowing through the trees. The other side. Shen Jian was in a good mood. Enjoying the benefits for a whole night made his heart feel a little warm. If he hadn't been worried about losing all his favorability points, he would have wanted to execute this beautiful lady on the spot. When he was about to vent his anger on Zhou Ya, the ghost wife, two pieces of news caught his attention. "Lan Tianbian, boss, Sister Xianzhu and I just got news from the ghost teacher at the Chenghuang Temple, saying that a group of fallen angel organizations seem to be gathering in Qingxi with a purpose, probably to attack the Daxia Longke branch in Qingxi. Shi, just as Wei Qing said, the other party seems to know that you are in the dungeon at the moment, and wants to take advantage of this time to launch an attack on the Great Xia Dragon Bird branch. According to the information from the City God Temple, this action of the fallen angel organization seems to be to attack. I came here because of you, the Great God, and I want to use the destruction of the Daxia Longqueking City branch to take revenge on you, the Great God. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the King of Hell of the 10th Palace." Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 266. Look at the messages on the chat interface. Shen Jian was a little stunned. The idea of taking revenge on him is quite interesting. Think about it. Shen Jian guessed that it was Luo Wenhao who revealed his information in the copy, allowing the fallen angel organization to determine that he was the mysterious man who had attacked the paper jamming and cursed god. This organization probably regards him as the person in charge of Qingxi, and wants to take advantage of the time when he is still in the 4-star dungeon and unable to appear in the real world, to retaliate against the Daxia Longke station of the Qingxi branch and make him regret it. In just a few words, Shen Jian extracted valuable clues and completed the speculation of causes and consequences. It's not hard to guess. But the members of the Fallen Angel organization had spotted the point in time when he would not be able to return to the real world even if he knew it, and they made a big move. This is a face-to-face provocation. Shen Jian's face showed something strange. Indeed. If he were the person in charge of another city, he might have to watch helplessly as the city he was guarding was attacked by members of the fallen angel organization, while he could only worry. Unfortunately, it only took him 3 days to speed through the 4-star supernatural dungeon. He can return to the real world at any time. Thoughts turn. Shen Jian returned to the real world. City God's Temple. Shen Jian met Wei Qing and Xianzhu. These two people were his first choice, and the second one was a living person. One had a precognitive ghost, and the other had a precognitive tool. Coupled with the 3-piece set of soul-catching chain, mourning stick, and soul-binding bag, even if the supernatural copy at the current level cannot sweep as well as him, it will definitely be safe. These two people are responsible for helping him catch ghosts in the horror game. Although the performance is not much, as long as the number of living Yinzei continues to expand, the number will become considerable. Tell me what's going on in detail. Sir, let me tell you. The ghost teacher came out. Explained, since you last appeared in the City God's Temple, sir, the popularity of the City God's Temple has greatly increased, and it has begun to attract a steady stream of visitors from out of town. Among them, some members of the Fallen Angel organization. They seem to be testing the so-called City God whether it was true or false. I stayed for a long time, and it was during this process that I learned this clue. But I can't contact you, sir, so I can only pass on the information to you through 2 undercover agents. Shen Jian nodded. Until there is a candidate for City God who has grown up, the ghost teacher temporarily manages the City God's Temple on his behalf. The City God's Temple is the underworld of a place and governs the entire territory of Qingxi. As long as there is news, it cannot escape the eyes of the City God's Temple. What time? According to the other party's plan, the time is 2 days later. 3 divine envoys will lead a team and lead all the members of the 3 halls to launch a surprise attack. Hear this. Wei Qing and Xianzhu took a deep breath. After becoming living beings, their strength has developed rapidly. They have also encountered members of the Fallen Angel organization in the dungeon. They have learned that the Fallen Angel organization is divided into 12 halls, each hall is led by a god. Make responsible. The strength of its lineup is not weaker than that of any great Xiaolonke branch. The divine envoy is equivalent to the level of the person in charge of a city. He is a 4-star player at the forefront of horror games. The 3 great envoys, that is, the 3 city leaders, brought the effective forces of their respective cities to unite to attack a branch. This is almost a battle without any suspense. It's complete revenge. In order to make Shen Jian regret, this fallen angel organization is willing to use such power. Once this battle is successful, the ferocity of the fallen angels will be deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. It will convey a concept to the world: if they kill the people of the fallen angel organization, even a Daxia dragon bird branch will be destroyed. Even the city leaders are not afraid at all. This will encourage more people to join this crazy organization. This is not only a revenge, but also a campaign by the fallen angel organization to frighten the world. There was a hint of worry on their faces. There are more than 500 people in the 3 halls, and they are led by 3 divine envoys. This is a terrifying force that can destroy any Daxia Lonke branch at will. Qingxi can't stop it. Sir, do we want to take action? If Qingxi is in trouble, everything you have done before will be in vain. The ghost teacher asked. Of course I want it. Shen Jian's eyes narrowed slightly. Qingxi was the first base of the underworld. No matter whether these people came for him or not, he could not let them cause damage. And Shen Jian did not forget the next stage of the Chenghuang Hall's mission. After building the City God's Hall and establishing a prayer book, he obtained the netherworld Bian Mountain and found the Bianhua seeds produced deep in the Bian mine. The City God's Temple appeared, and he obtained a netherworld pool, which was also a resource that could help the underworld grow in strength. The next stage is to let the Chenghuang Temple completely control Qingxi. This battle is the key. It's time for the city god's hall to completely step out of kingshi and prepare for the second step of expansion. Shen Jian's thoughts swirled. I immediately had an idea. A smile appeared on his lips. It's time for the underworld to be high profile. The last Luken Ghost King incident was just a prelude to the coming of the underworld. This time is the first appearance of the underworld. There are just 3 divine envoys, there is no need for him to take action. Villa No 001. Shenjiang just returned here. The TV in the master bedroom began to flicker on and off. Although it was not turned on, it automatically started playing a picture. An ancient well appeared on the screen. In the ancient well, Sadako, dressed in white with her long hair spread in front of her face, crawled out of the TV. Without saying a word, he placed Shen Jian's head under her knee pillow. He stretched out his soft, boneless hands to gently press Shen Jian, letting down strands of long black hair. Outside the door, the sound of high heels sounded slowly. Miss Mary, wearing black high heels, a black evening gown, and a piece of lace black cloth covering her eyes, walked slowly. Her face covered by the black cloth was faintly red, and she had a sickly smile. After Miss Mary, there was a slit girl wrapped in a windbreaker, covering her body tightly, and wearing a mask. Inside the room, a pen spins out of thin air. The Bixian, wearing a blood-red dress, fell coldly. Her wrists were as white as wax statues, and her ankles were like the most perfect works of art from heaven. People couldn't help but look at her. In the closet, 4 bright red wedding dresses flew out. 4 beautiful bridesmaids wearing red hijabs, red embroidered shoes, red wedding dresses, and phoenix crowns appeared, and a delicate husband was shouted from their mouths. The exact same face also shouted the same sentence. It makes people's bones feel crispy. Humph, shameless. A cold snort came out. Another bright red figure appeared, wearing an extremely bright red underwear. Her gorgeous appearance made her the center of the room at this moment. That's the ghost bride? I don't know who came so late. It couldn't be that he was putting on makeup, so he was late. The second sister among the 4 bridesmaids also said something rude. A woman's appearance is pleasing to the eye. Is there anything wrong with that? He is my husband. The ghost bride, who was expected to deny it, was not affected at all this time, and instead spoke with some arrogance. The bridesmaid was left speechless. Shen Jian scanned them one by one. There was a look of satisfaction on his face. Among them, the one with the lowest level of horror has already reached the half-step Ghost King level, and the highest Ghost Bride has been promoted to the Ghost King. In the world of horror, this is equivalent to the entire foundation of a 4-star supernatural dungeon. 2 days later, you guys take action. You lead the ghosts from the underworld to clean up these people. I have only one request, don't let anyone go, especially the 3 divine envoys. No matter whether they are dead or alive, they will be killed. Bring back all the ghosts in your body. Kill them all. The ghost bride raised her eyebrows. Are you not afraid that your underworld will be regarded as an evil place? Shen Jian said calmly, the underworld is not a kind place to begin with, let alone these people who are attacking the underworld's territory. If the underworld doesn't express any more people will think that this place is easy to bully. Go tell these people that Kingshi is the territory of the underworld. No one, no supernatural being, can survive against the will of the underworld. Hear this. The fierce ghosts all around showed ferocious expressions. They don't care about the human world, the underworld, the horror world, etc. They only follow the orders of the man in front of them. Yes, husband. City God's Hall. When Shen Jian comes back here. It's getting dark. His eyes were deep, as if he had seen the scene where Qing City was completely taken over by the City God's Hall after this battle. The ghost gang headed by the ghost bride will lead the ghost gangs from the underworld on that day and set off a night march of hundreds of ghosts in Kingshi. Wherever you go, the mystery is gone, the weirdness is gone, and the supernatural is gone. Only the will of the underworld can prevail at this moment. Shen Jian was thoughtful. It's time for him to consider building the next city god's hall. As long as the city god's temple completely takes over Kingshi and receives the third stage rewards related to the city god's temple, he can build a second city god's temple and complete the fourth stage mission. Receive 2 rewards at once. Thinking. A special prayer spectrum caught Shen Jian's attention. The location is located in Binhai City. The petitioner is a mother. The prayer was to save her trapped son. Location, Vientiane Cinema City. The reason that made Shen Jian stay was that this Vientiane cinema was a copy. According to the description of the petitioner, she was watching a movie with her son when suddenly there was a loud noise. Some people claimed that they saw ghosts killing people. After that, more and more people began to flee, praying that people were separated from their sons and heard from those who were still here. What did he say? A transparent panel appeared in front of him. There is a copy written on it, Supernatural Cinema. Shen Jian frowned. Since the first supernatural dungeon that came to the real world was destroyed by him, it took a few months for the second supernatural dungeon to arrive, and the warning from the original horror game also proved that everything he did was effective. Stop the invasion of horror games into the world. But the effect of this containment was obviously not as great as he imagined. But it doesn't matter. If he can contain it once, he can contain it countless times. There was a hint of silent excitement on Shen Jian's face. Binhai City. Vientiane Cinema City. Like Kingshi, this place has been sealed off. A long cordon was set up. Shen Jian didn't care. The ghost realm unfolded and went directly inside. According to the content of the petition, we went all the way to the cinema on the 3rd floor. The moment you step into this place, a scarlet panel appeared in front of Shen Jian. It has been detected that the player carries the title of Dungeon Collapser. Horror game reminds you, please leave within 10 seconds. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Want him to leave? It's noisy. How did he get the title Dungeon Collapser and Ghost Seeing Sorrow? Without hesitation, Shen Jian took another step forward. It has been detected that a player has entered the dungeon territory, and you have triggered the dungeon. Copy, Supernatural Cinema. Main mission, watch 3 movies in full. Task tip, please do not move around randomly, otherwise the actor will be angry. Difficulty, 2 stars. Shen Jian paused. He frowned. If he remembered correctly, the difficulty of the last dungeon that came to the real world seemed to be only 1 star. It was he who triggered the truth behind the dungeon that caused the dungeon to change. But this time, the initial difficulty of the dungeon is 2 stars. This is already the upper limit copy that most horror game players can reach. Now it has fallen into a group of ordinary people. This prayer was made 2 days ago. Except for some lucky ones, I'm afraid all the humans inside are dead. Thinking. Shen Jian had already entered the entrance of the cinema. The doorway was empty. There was also an empty popcorn cart stand next to it. The moment you step into the cinema, a row of scarlet panels reappeared. The player has entered the cinema. Please select the 3 movies you want to watch from the movies below. Source 1, Ghost Love. Introduction, he was originally the king ghost of the underground, but he was plotted against by the enemy ghost. Source 2, My Bloody Death Diary. Introduction, he, who was already a coward, accidentally picked up a murder note written by a murderer. Source 3, 3 Treasures in One Child, the Ghost King Daddy is super fierce. Source 4, My Little Beloved Wife in a Ghost Town. Source 5. Shen Jian's mouth twitched. The front part is okay, and there is still a bit of horror, But what the hell is the source of the film in the back? Is there a big gathering of bad movies? Take a look. Shen Jian withdrew his gaze. He didn't go to watch the movie immediately. Instead, he headed to the bathroom. According to the petitioner's description, the first incident that occurred in the movie theater was in the toilet. Someone claimed that they heard a noise coming from next door while watching a movie. The person next to the toilet stretched out a hand, holding 3 pieces of paper, and asked him which one to choose. The man was so frightened that he put on his pants and ran out. After weird scenes happened one after another. Chaos breaks out. A copy of the supernatural cinema has come to reality. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 267. The player has entered the supernatural cinema. Please choose the source to watch as soon as possible. As Shen Jian walked to the toilet, scarlet panels kept appearing, urging him to choose as soon as possible. Shen Jian ignored it. Real-world dungeons cannot be used in horror games, and experience points will not increase even if the dungeon tasks are completed. This result has been confirmed in the last real-life copy. He doesn't have to base it on the gameplay of a horror game. Stop, don't go to the toilet if you don't want to die. At this time, a voice stopped Shen Jian. Shen Jian glanced over. This was a small lounge for staff. A pair of eyes appeared from the crack in the door, warning Shen Jian. Why? Shen Jian said casually. Why? Are you new here? Don't you know there is a ghost here? What? Can you come out? Is there really a living person walking in again? Are they here to save us? When I heard someone new walking in, the lounge immediately became chaotic. One by one they rushed out. Among these people were men and women, children, and old people. All of them had sallow complexions, heavy dark circles under their eyes, and looked like they had suffered from severe lack of sleep. Seeing Shen Jian was like seeing a savior. It's someone from outside. He doesn't look like he has been intimidated at all. He is exactly the same as us a few days ago. Little brother, were you sent to save us? What's going on outside now? Have you started organizing a rescue? Everyone said something to me. He looked very anxious. Everyone looked at Shen Jian with expectant expressions. Shen Jian was thoughtful. Cannot go out? The first time the horror dungeon came to the real world, you could escape from the dungeon as long as you walked out of the deserted village. But this second time it came to the real world, this bug has been fixed. It has become more and more like a supernatural copy. Thriller Games is like a programmer, gradually fixing the problems of the supernatural copy. In the future, as more and more copies arrive, Yangshi will eventually become the next horror world. I'm here to find someone. Shen Jian focused his eyes on a little boy. He looked about 5 or 6 years old and was hiding behind an old man. This is the lost son of the petitioner's mother. Although he looked a little weak, he was probably just hungry. Think about it. Shen Jian took out the food from his body. This was something he put on his body in his spare time, but he didn't expect that it would come in handy one day. Your mother asked me to rescue you. Just hold on and you'll be out soon. Shen Jian handed over the food and touched the little boy's head. Others who received the food also thanked them profusely. They had been trapped here for 2 days, during which they did not dare to leave the room at all, for fear of being stared at by ghosts. When they saw the food, they started to wolf it down one by one. Tell me about the situation here. Shen Jian asked. Among the crowd, a middle-aged man walked out. He hesitated and said, "You are saving us, right?" Shen Jian nodded, "You can understand it that way." That's great, little brother. I don't dare to stay here for a moment. Every day I stay, an innocent person will die. The middle-aged man danced and began to tell everything about this place. Little brother, I was the first one to find traces of ghosts. My wife and I came here to watch a movie. In the middle of the night, because I was too bored, I went to the toilet to smoke. As a result, a terrible scene happened. I saw a pale hand stretching out from the toilet stall, thinking that the other person wanted to borrow paper, but who knew that there were 3 pieces of paper in that hand? A sinister voice asked me, "Do you want yellow paper, red paper, or white paper?" The middle-aged man looked horrified and calmed down for a while before continuing, "I was stunned at the time. Plus, I also like reading ghost stories, so I suddenly thought of that folk legend. When you go to the toilet at night and encounter a pair of hands handing you a piece of paper and asking you to choose, you must not choose. Because what you choose is the way you die. If you choose yellow paper, you will be chopped into pieces and thrown into the toilet. If you choose red paper, your neck will be cut and blood will flow on the toilet floor. If you choose white paper, you will be the most terrifying, and your face will be pale on the 3rd day. Die in a bathroom stall and no one knows how you died." I was so scared. The middle-aged man's voice was trembling. I pushed open the toilet door and ran out, but soon I discovered a terrifying scene. All 3 pieces of paper were on my body, and I couldn't get rid of them no matter what I did. Then every day, one of the 3 pieces of paper on my body will randomly disappear and appear on someone else. The person who received the paper will all die without exception. And today is already the 3rd day. Someone has received yellow paper and red paper a few days ago. I'm afraid this white paper will fall on me. Little brother, please help me, I don't want to die. The middle-aged man looked terrified. Shen Jian listened. Only then did I understand why these people were still alive. Ganking has triggered Li Gui's killing pattern, and it is only because of the restriction that only one person can die every day that so many people can survive. If we had waited a few more days, I'm afraid they would all be dead. Give me all 3 pieces of paper. Ah! The middle-aged man was slightly startled, but he still subconsciously handed over 3 pieces of paper representing doom and ominousness. Little brother, it's useless. This paper found me out of nowhere. As long as it leaves me within 5 meters, it will come back to me. I have tried many methods, but to no avail. Shen Jian said nothing. Turn around and leave. 5 steps later, the middle-aged man subconsciously touched his pocket, and then his pupils shrank. No. He quickly opened another pocket and looked through other pockets that could hide things, but there was still none. He was free from the curse. Mr. Qi, I think he went to the toilet. Is he really an official? Why do you feel so reckless? Don't let yourself in and bring out 3 pieces of yellow, red, and white paper at the same time. A man in a suit who seemed to know the middle-aged man said worriedly. The middle-aged man was shocked. Expert, that is definitely an expert. We can be saved. In the toilet. Shen Jian walked into one of them. Less than 10 minutes later, the lights in the toilet suddenly dimmed, flickering on and off, and a cold wind blew. Hey hey hey! A strange and sinister laughter sounded in his cubicle. Then, a pale arm slowly stretched out from the toilet stall. Before the paper ghost could speak, Shen Jian stepped on his wrist and took out 3 pieces of paper from his pocket. Jajaja, do you want yellow paper, red paper, or white paper? Paper hander. He was totally confused. This is the first time I've seen this happen. Damn it! Shouldn't this be my line? You said so. Then I'm talking nonsense. The paper ghost was pressed against the door panel of the cubicle, with a grimace full of pain. He tried to pull his hand back, but couldn't do it. Unless he had the courage to dismember his hand, he would not be able to move at all. Without any choice, The paper ghost could only shout, I choose the red paper. The red paper was used to cut the neck, causing blood to flow all over the ground. But he is a ghost, so it doesn't matter if the blood dries up, he can't die anyway. The worst case scenario is getting your neck wiped. The voice fell. The foot that stepped on his wrist moved away and opened the door to his cubicle. A man with a strange smile on his face was holding a blood-stained electric saw and looked at him with excitement. You chose a good way to die. The red paper was dismembered by the electric saw and let the blood flow all over the toilet. Paper hander. He was visibly panicked. That chainsaw could dismember him. Broken. Meet a tough human being. Listening to the sound of the chainsaw turning, the paper ghost kept shrinking towards the corner. The voice trembled, wait, isn't the red paper wiped on the neck? You are wrong. Shenjian raised his eyebrows, these are my rules. Why, you don't accept it? Paper passing ghost. What the hell? If it weren't for the fact that you have a powerful ghost weapon in your hand, it would be over if you saw whether I could kill you or not. However, if you really want to be wiped out, I can make it happen for you. Hear this. A glimmer of hope rekindled in the paper ghost's heart. He humbly took out the knife on his body and said with a smile, there is no need to find additional props. I have a knife here, use this. Shenjian's eyes were strange, what are you talking about? Of course you need this kind of knife to wipe your neck. Said. An ancient long knife was placed across the paper ghost's neck. Paper hander. This. He made a scared face and made an emoticon. Your family does wholesale, right? He took out another ghost weapon, which was even more terrifying than the previous chainsaw. Being wiped across the neck with this knife is basically the same as death. He wanted to cry but had no tears. He is a green-clad fierce ghost, why would he need to use such a formation? Are you ready? Shenjian said with a kind face. And raised the ghost knife in his hand. The ghost sword's supernatural power is a surefire way to kill, but for a green-clothed ghost, there is no need to use the supernatural power. The ghost sword's own ability to suppress supernatural powers can kill the ghost. Wait a minute, brother, I have information. I can betray my teammates. I'm not the only one here. Shouted the paper ghost. Shenjian's raised ghost sword paused. After a while. It was Shenjian's voice that came, yes, you are also a genius who knows how to adapt to the situation. Call over. A ghost who knows how to summon the same kind of ghost will be very helpful to him in clearing this place. Paper passing ghost. There is no need to speak in the first half. He said sorry to his own kind in his heart. A dead Taoist friend is not a poor Taoist. It would be better for you all to die than for me to die. Sorry. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 268. Due to Shenjian's lustful power, the paper-passing ghost had no choice but to let out a sharp roar. The sound was very strange and very penetrating. This kind of ghost sound can attract evil ghosts. Half a minute later, the theater lights outside the toilet flickered strangely, with a pattern of 3 long and 1 short, constantly brightening and dimming. Shenjian was stunned for a moment. Then he looked straight at the paper ghost. Didn't you call me here? The paper ghost wiped the cold sweat that was still there and said hurriedly, brother, this is none of my business. Originally, the group of people outside had triggered my killing pattern and were all marked as prey by me. According to the agreement between the ghosts, other ghosts can no longer attack these humans, but as soon as I send the signal, it means that I will give up the food. You alone are naturally not as tempting as a group of people outside. I'm disgusted. Shenjian clicked his tongue, his eyes dark. He rushed out with the ghost sword in hand. The other side. The middle-aged man known as Mr. Chi is observing the movements of the toilet not far away. Mr. Chi, if there has been no movement for so long, he is probably dead inside, right? A man in a suit said hesitantly. The bathroom in a movie theater is a disaster place. It's already clear that there is a ghost. In the 2 days since the arrival of the supernatural cinema, 2 people received red paper and yellow paper respectively. One had his throat cut and fell in a pool of blood. One entered the toilet in the middle of the night and stuffed himself into the toilet. If it weren't for ghosts, how could normal people do these things? Don't talk nonsense, that's an expert. Mr. Chi was also furious at this moment. He wanted to believe in Shen Jian's ability, but since there had been no movement for so long, he was unsure. It is a ghost after all. It was an abnormal supernatural event. Moreover, in ghost stories, most ghosts are invincible beings, and attacks from living people cannot harm them at all. If you want to deal with legendary creatures like ghosts, you must have magic circles, spells, scriptures and other things. Even if it is not good, you must have auxiliary props such as black dog blood, peachwood sword, and glutinous rice. But he didn't see this in Shen Jian. The dressing style does not look like those of professions such as celestial master or Taoist priest. To be honest, he was panicking inside. They have been trapped in this damn ghost place for 2 days. Even if there is no threat from ghosts, they can only hold on for 2 or 3 days at most. If Shen Jian cannot deal with the ghosts, they can only choose to go deep into other parts of the cinema to find survival opportunity. Sizzle. The lights in the corridor began to flicker. Suddenly dark and suddenly bright. Oh, it's so dark in here, can you stay with me? Stay with me, who of you can stay with me? An eerie voice sounded from the stairs. Along with the crunching sound, it seemed that something was walking from upstairs, no, climbing down. The kind with all 4 limbs facing the ground. The voice seemed to be pleading, but it was laced with a hint of teasing. Ah! Everyone was frightened and screamed. His pupils dilated even more, adrenaline began to surge, and his heartbeat began to accelerate. A face that is even more terrifying. Looking at the dark figure climbing down the stairs, Mr. Chi only felt fear in his heart. They saw a ghost with twisted limbs, crawling on the ground like a monster, crawling towards them. The crawling ghost was chewing something in its mouth, making a sound like juice exploding. Blood continued to flow from the ghost's mouth. Tick-tock on the ground. The crawling ghost walked by, and bloody handprints were constantly printed on the stairwell. Ah! Ghost, there is a ghost. What the hell is this place? Why is there another ghost? Everyone was frightened. Flee for his life. I simply didn't dare to stay where I was. Gee, don't run away, stay and play with me. Run slower, it's so dark here, I'm so scared, hee hee. The crawling ghost smiled sinisterly and quickened his pace. There were bloody fingerprints of his crawling on the ground, the walls on both sides, and the ceiling. For a moment, all the survivors looked ashen. It's over. Completely finished. Mr. Chi, who was running at the front, also felt a burst of despair in his heart. Did that little brother really fail? Otherwise, how could I not have heard such a big movement? At this time, Shen Jian's loud voice also sounded outside the toilet. Okay, are you afraid of the dark? I like to help others the most. This voice was extremely ferocious, with a hint of excitement in its tone. Creeping ghost? Your voice doesn't sound like you want to help others. Survivor? Is this the little brother? Is he still alive? Everyone was shocked. Then I saw a figure walking out of the toilet, holding a long knife in his hand. Even in the dark, the blade still exuded a cold light that was hard to look at. No matter how old it is, it cannot erase the edge of this ghost sword. Shen Jian glanced at it and smiled compassionately, Don't worry, I am a charlatan and I am very good at treating diseases and saving people. Your limbs are twisted and the bones are obviously necrotic, but there is no need to worry, I will cut off the limbs for you, so you won't get sick elsewhere. As for being afraid of the dark, that's even simpler. Just perform eyeball peeling surgery and you won't need to be afraid of the dark from now on. Creeping ghost? He was stunned for a moment. My limbs are twisted, just cut them all off for me? I said I'm afraid of the dark, so why don't you take off my eyeballs? You are such a humming talent. Fortunately, the Ministry of Punishment is gone, otherwise you would still be a minister of the Ministry of Punishment. He was lying on the wall, staring at Shen Jian with vicious eyes. Human, if you have the ability, come and try. Hear this. Shen Jian couldn't bear it immediately. Directly gave the crawling ghost a knife. He used the ghost sword's decapitation power on a green-clad ghost. There was a click. The crawler's whole head fell off. A frozen face stared at Shen Jian in astonishment. As if to say, are you really cheating? Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. What's wrong with cheating? You blocked my account. The ghost rope revived and stretched, and a blood-stained hemp rope hung from the sky, hanging the body of the crawling ghost. He skillfully opened the sack and stuffed the body into it. Shen Jian returned to the toilet. See this scene. All the survivors were stunned. Opened his mouth. He looked extremely shocked. Is this the end? A ghost will be dealt with like this? That's a ghost. How could it be as easy as crushing an ant? It was so simple that many survivors doubted that they could do it too. Mr. Chi came back from his shock. Without hesitation, he followed directly. At this time, even a fool can see that this guy is very powerful. The devil will kill him if he says so. It's definitely safest to stay with him. Others saw this. They also gathered around. Before I even got to the toilet, I heard something making a wee-wee sound. The sound was sharp and wailing, not like the sound that a human could make, but like a ghost crying. Mr. Chi felt ridiculous for his idea. That's a ghost. How could a ghost cry? If he can cry, is he still a ghost? He dismissed this unreliable thought and cautiously approached the toilet. Look inside. Shen Jian was seen putting the knife on the paper ghost's neck, and stepping on the ghost's back with his other foot. Like a villain from the old society, he threatened fiercely, keep shouting, shout louder. If your voice is below 60 decibels today, I will send you to see your fellow sufferers right away. Many survivors. Ah, this. How could it be a thrilling survival game that turned into leading villains to oppress ordinary people? This style of painting is wrong. They looked at each other. I always felt like I had broken something bad. But under Shen Jian's coercion and inducement, the paper ghost cried again. What evil had he done in his life to meet such a cruel villain? Why don't you become the evil ghost? You are much more suitable than us. Huh? Are you going to call me? Shen Jian's eyes were fierce as he grabbed the paper ghost's dog's head, the knife already lying across the mark. Whoa! The paper-passing ghost once again issued a request for help from surrendering to the enemy and treason. The voice is very sincere. He looked helpless and oppressed. Survivors. Even weirder. Just standing outside and watching the fight made them feel like they were accomplices of the perpetrators. Mainly because the ghost cried so sadly. However, Shen Jian stepped on other people's backs and put the knife against their necks. Those who didn't know better thought Shen Jian was the ghost. Suddenly, the lights dimmed quickly. An extremely cold breath descended, and the surrounding temperature dropped. Everyone looked panicked. This was what it looked like when the ghost appeared just now. Could it be that another evil ghost is coming? Think of this. Everyone trembled. His eyes began to look around on guard. Yes, there. At this time, A female college student covered her mouth, her eyes widened, and she did not dare to say another word. She pointed at the bathroom mirror with a look of horror on her face. Shen Jian glanced back. A woman with her eyes gouged out and her pupils bloody, was smiling sinisterly at them. Others saw this. They all jumped out in fright and backed away, their faces turning pale. Compared with the misery of the paper ghost, the ghost that appeared in the mirror was undoubtedly more in line with their image of a fierce ghost. The first sight of it would make them tremble, as if it had aroused the deepest fear in their hearts. The woman in the mirror seemed to be very satisfied with the reaction of this group of humans. Her face was distorted, and her two empty eyeballs were constantly flowing with bright red blood. At the same time, a face was leaning towards the outside of the mirror, as if trying to push the face out of the mirror. Soon, her face had stretched out a little. The sinister laughter began to echo in the toilet. "Paper passer, I know you are interested in me, and I am very grateful for the food you prepared for me, but there is no relationship between us." The words are not finished yet. The woman in the mirror was stunned. Because she realized something didn't seem right. A human was staring at her with excitement on his face, and the paper-passing ghost in her mouth was stepped on by this human, crying woo woo woo. Female ghost in the mirror. Grass. This bitch actually betrayed them. This is not a signal to eat at all. It's about luring the enemy. Pass the paper ghost, you worthless man. The woman in the mirror screamed. The body will shrink into the mirror. The paper-passing ghost's level of terror was higher than hers, and even he was suppressed by this human being, so there was no need for her to say more. Run away quickly. GGG, you're already here. It would be rude of me not to invite you to come out and sit down. Shen Jian looked very enthusiastic. The figure moved. Stretch out your 5 fingers. The 6 ghost eyes opened immediately, and the ghost domain covered his right hand and stretched it into the mirror. Can be seen. The picture in the mirror shows a woman running away into the distance of the mirror, while a big hand of a cattail leaf fan suddenly grabs it and pulls it. Click. The mirror shattered. The woman in the mirror was forcibly dragged out of the mirror world and slammed into the toilet stall. Woman in the mirror. She looked confused. Brother, how the hell did you put your hand in? This unscientific. And do you think it's polite for you to forcefully pull a woman like this? Shen Jian ignored it. He left the woman beside the paper ghost. His eyes seemed to be shining. Keep shouting and call out the rest, or I will strip your goddess naked, take a ghost video, and upload it. Woman in the mirror. She looked shocked. Are you speaking in human language? Strip naked and make a ghost movie? Is this the kind of ghost movie she understands? The face of the paper ghost turned green. Damn it! Brother, you are too vicious. Who is the ghost among us now? The paper-passing ghost was about to cry without tears. Brother, it's really not that I don't want to, but there are only 3 of us who can move in this cinema, and we are specifically responsible for killing those humans who stay outside the screening hall. I really can't cry out. The other ghosts are in the screening room. Even if they hear my voice, they can't come out at all. Shen Jian was stunned. The level of excitement on his face dropped visibly. So, you are no longer useful. Paper-passing ghost. Woman in the mirror, I don't dare to speak because I'm afraid of being photographed in all kinds of embarrassing movies. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 269. Seeing the 2 fierce ghosts being packed into sacks, the survivors present felt a kind of shock from the soul. The ghosts in ghost stories specialize in scaring people, taking their lives, and destroying their lives. At this moment, they were like 2 pieces of merchandise, being ravaged without mercy, but they did not dare to resist at all. You know, even in the face of the evil leaders of the underworld, there are countless people with blood and souls. As a legendary ghost, his performance is so humble, and he doesn't know how many people have broken their inherent fear of ghosts. It also made Shen Jian's image infinitely higher. "Master, when can we leave here?" Mr. Qi said cautiously. "I don't know, but there are no ghosts here anymore. Just wait." Shen Jian turned and left. He really didn't know. Because he wasn't sure how many movies he would go to see later. Time is such an inconvenience. See this. No one dared to stop him. We have all seen Shen Jian's cruelty. Who dares to say that he is more powerful than Li Gui? He would risk his life to stop such a ruthless man? Until Shen Jian left. The discussion started. Is this little master some kind of strange person? Otherwise, how can he deal with ghosts? Today was really eye-opening. Not only did I see ghosts with my own eyes, but I also met the guy who exorcises ghosts. This world is too fantastic. In recent years, our Binhai city has established some kind of Daxia. It is said that the original official personnel participated in it and directly controlled all the power of the entire Binhai. Previously, the whole city announced that it could not increase the speed to more than 100 yards. The rules are set by this Daxia. I also heard that my eldest aunt's cousin's second uncle said that this so-called Daxia is full of special personnel, and their status is frighteningly high. The crowd was noisy. Everyone was in an uproar. That little brother must be one of these special people. Mr. Qi was also listening to these remarks. Uneasiness prevailed. The world seems to be a little different. Even ghosts appear. There are even strangers who can exorcise ghosts. How can ordinary people like him protect themselves in such a world? Warning: players who have not selected a video for a long time will be expelled from the instance. Shen Jian paused and looked strange. This thriller game really takes double standards to the extreme. There are a lot of ordinary people who are stranded in the copy but have not entered the screening room. If they could be expelled, why would the group of people just suffer here for 2 days? This option is undoubtedly aimed at him. Shen Jian glanced at the source video again. The first one was chosen. I choose Ghost Love. The player has selected video number 1. Video, Ghost Love. Introduction: he was originally the king of the underground, but he was plotted by the enemy. He had 108 knives in his body and was thrown into a trash can in the alley. She was originally a female college student from an ordinary ghost school. When she had the opportunity to go out to make soy sauce, Coco met him, who was dying. After taking him home and taking good care of him, the two ghosts' relationship quickly warmed up and they fell in love unexpectedly. The enemy kidnapped her and forced her to marry him. So, the king returns, becomes a beauty in anger, and once again leaves a legend in the world. Task tips: go to screening room number 1. Note: please remain quiet while watching the movie. Shen Jian. Ah, what genius took this photo? He almost took away the 3-bedroom apartment. From this introduction, he only extracted one keyword: coconut. This video looks like a prequel to Kayako. Think about it. Shen Jian followed the prompts and went all the way to screening room number 1. It was very dark inside, with 50 or 60 chairs arranged, and a large screen in front of it. From the appearance, it was no different from the usual movie theaters. In the screening room, there were 7 survivors sitting in front of each other. Seeing Shen Jian, these survivors waved in surprise. Brother, which screening room did you come out from? Let's exchange information. I have already watched one movie safely. With this one in mind, I only have one more movie to go out safely. When the time comes, I will help everyone shout for help. One of them, a polite-looking college student wearing glasses, held his girlfriend's hand tightly and spoke to Shen Jian in a low voice. It is not difficult to see that there was a bit of panic in his tone. It was the first movie I ever watched. Shen Jian sat down and said honestly. First time? How could it be the first time? This copy of the supernatural cinema has been here for 2 days. Even if you delay, you must watch the movie once a day, unless you have just arrived. The bespectacled man's voice stopped abruptly. Everyone's eyes fell on Shen Jian. Showing some compassion. He was actually the first person to be pulled into the dungeon. The man with glasses also showed a hint of disappointment, but still comforted him. Don't worry, brother, you are lucky. You met us in the first scene. We already know the basic plot of Ghost Love, so be safe, it is not difficult to watch it. I recommend you to choose the third film for your next movie. 3 Treasures in One Child, Ghost King Daddy is super fierce. This is a parenting film. As long as you play games with 3 little female ghosts, you can live a stable life. At last. Play games. Shen Jian was slightly surprised in his eyes. Listening to this, there will be 3 little female ghosts running out? Of course, didn't you see the illusory panel in front of you? This is a supernatural cinema. During the movie watching, the ghosts in the movie will appear in the screening room. Generally speaking, as long as you watch the movie quietly and make no sound, you can pass safely. However, there are also ghosts in some movies that will trigger other choices. For example, in the third video, 3 little female ghosts will randomly appear and play games with humans. As long as you accompany them, they play and it's not difficult to survive. The man with glasses explained. It's not hard to hear some palpitations in his tone. The others also lowered their heads. There were 50 or 60 people in a whole screening room, but in the end only 7 of them survived. Behind this information was bloody cruelty. This is a customs clearance strategy based on human lives? Shen Jian nodded. Remembered this video. Ghost King Daddy, I don't know if it's a gimmick or the real Ghost King. Soon. The big screen in front started to scroll. Accompanied by bursts of pitiful screams, a scene that looked like oozing blood appeared in everyone's sight. The man with glasses said quickly, Brother, this is your first time here. Don't disobey the instructions. Once the movie enters the main scene, you can't talk anymore. You can write and communicate what you want to say. If a ghost appears later, don't panic. As long as you don't speak, ghosts generally won't kill people. If you encounter a fierce ghost looking for you, don't resist and obey the ghost's instructions, so that you can survive. The words fell. The man with glasses closed his mouth. Because the movie starts. The beginning is an extremely bloody scene. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, limbs fell off. The male protagonist in the film was defeated by dozens of evil ghosts and was thrown into a trash can. At this time, Kayako met the other party and took him back to take good care of him. Shen Jian looked bored. It's quite a rush to watch romantic modern dramas. It's just that the protagonist is replaced by a ghost. He's seen it. The terror level of these evil spirits is generally not high. Basically, they are all around the white-clothed level. The villain is half-step in red. The protagonist is also half-stepped in red. Kayako is Xingyi level. There is no limit to exceeding the 2-star dungeon. He wanted to know when the evil ghost would appear. However, in the eyes of others, his behavior made him look restless. To this, the man with glasses typed, Brother, just treat it like watching a special naked eye 3D special effects blockbuster. And after we finished watching the last movie, we have already communicated with the survivors who finished the film Ghost Love. The first half of this movie there is no danger, the only danger will only appear in the final decisive battle. Damn, something happened randomly. At this moment, one of the survivors showed a horrified look. He shouted in a lowered voice. We encountered a special situation. Hear this. The man with glasses also trembled. Special circumstances mean that a fierce ghost that is different from the intelligence is refreshed. He looked up sharply. Shen Jian also looked up. The video is frozen in the scene where the male and female protagonists go to a restaurant for dinner. Ring ring ring. There was a strange sound of a cart. In the dim screening room, two figures appeared at some point. A waiter and a fat bald chef. Pushing a food cart all the way to the survivors. A sinister laughter sounded, "Dear guests, what do you want to eat?" All survivors felt their scalps go numb. The target of these two fierce ghosts turned out to be everyone. They looked up tremblingly. Compared with the images in the movie, the images of the waiters and chefs in the real world are very different. The two ghosts exude a heavy death aura, their eyes are a little white, and there are corpse spots on their faces. It was just two corpses standing in front of them talking. Everyone was breathing rapidly and felt as if their hearts were about to beat out. "Guests, our restaurant focuses on steak today. The taste and reviews are good. Do you want it?" The waiter spoke. Everyone looked at each other. No one dared to speak. He was afraid that if he said a word, he would be attacked by evil spirits. "Guests, why don't you say anything? You can't stop spending money when you enter our restaurant, otherwise you will need to leave a hand as compensation." The waiter spoke again. The smile became more ferocious. There was a faint look of death on his body. The man with glasses held his girlfriend's hand tightly. He said, "We need one." "Hey hey hey, that's not okay. How many people come into the restaurant? You have to order as many servings as you want. Otherwise, you're looking down on our chef's cooking skills." The waiter finished. The fat chef had already glared hard and said with a ferocious grin, "What do you mean by asking for a portion? Do you think the food I cook is not delicious? Everyone has no choice." Everyone ordered one compulsorily. When it was Shen Jian's turn, he said, "Are you professional? You don't even ask how familiar the customers are. If it doesn't suit my taste, can I destroy your restaurant?" As soon as these words came out, the entire screening room fell silent. Survivors. Everyone turned around in shock. It seems that he didn't expect this newcomer to be so bold. How dare you speak to a ghost like this? Isn't he afraid that a ghost will be unhappy and tear him apart? Fat chef? So brave. Very good, I'll help you. The fat chef bared his sharp teeth and said with a sinister smile, "I was negligent." Guest, how much mature steak do you want? Our store only makes two flavors, medium ripe and medium ripe. After listening, Shen Jian looked disgusted. It is indeed a small restaurant. We city people only like to eat zero ripe ones. This is the freshest. It is best to take the cow out to dry it, and then bring it back and I will hold it and chew it. Fat chef? His mouth dropped open. God is so mature. I see you are making things difficult for me, the chef. It's late at night, where can I go to dry it for you? Phew, I was led astray. Where can I find a cow for you? Why don't you just blow it out? The fat chef's eyes became more and more evil, and the kitchen knife in his hand was stained with a layer of bright red. He had the urge to chop Shen Jian to death at the slightest disagreement. Guest, we don't have zero ripe ones in our store. We can't do that. You should choose other options. The 5 ripe ones taste good too, with flesh and blood sticking to your teeth. The 3 ripe ones are even better and can burst with juice in your mouth. The waiter also took a step forward, his face covered with corpses slightly distorted. Not zero mature. Shen Jian stood up with a dangerous look in his eyes. Who says there isn't one? There's already one here. Waiter? He was thinking. Shen Jian had already snatched the kitchen knife from the chef's hand, dismembered both of his arms with one knife, and dropped them to the ground. But the strange thing is that there is no blood flowing out of the arm, and after it is disconnected, It emits an unpleasant smell of something rotten. Waiter. You are riding a horse. When you say zero maturity, do you mean me? He was suddenly stunned. I didn't expect that a human's mind could be more cruel than their demons. Moreover, this human being was able to dismember both of his arms. Ha ha ha, you saw it, freshly slaughtered, it's fresh enough. Shen Jian held a kitchen knife and approached step by step. See it? The waiter turned pale. The body without arms subconsciously retreated. Then he became a runner. Don't run away. Your arms are not fresh at all. I won't eat them even if they are zero mature. Shen Jian picked up the kitchen knife and chased after him. Waiter. I believe you. If you put the knife down first and then say this, I might believe it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 270. In an empty screening room. There were screams from the waiter. When Shen Jian dealt with the waiter and looked at him with excitement, the fat chef did not hesitate and chose to turn around and run away. His fat body did not affect his actions at all. A few breaths. Just wanted to run back to the big screen from the other side. Master, you forgot to take your knife. Shen Jian chased after him with a kitchen knife. He was very enthusiastic and had the spirit of returning something to its owner. I'll give it to you, don't chase it. The chef shouted in horror. This is not okay. You must take this knife away today. Shen Jian said with a smile. He picked up the kitchen knife again and chased after him. That tone, that look, that action, he was completely like a villain. Chef. His face hurt. Damn it. You don't look like you're going to fight back. You clearly want to kill me. He ran faster. Afraid of death. Humans are too cruel and he wants to go home. Looking at this scene. Survivors. Is there something wrong with this script? The bespectacled man in the crowd was dumbfounded and murmured to himself, logically speaking, shouldn't we be the ones who, under the control of the evil ghost, look for opportunities to survive step by step, and finally clear this dungeon and survive successfully? He thought for a long time. Finally came to the answer, they are not ferocious enough and are incompatible with this place. When Shen Jian dealt with the chef, stuffed it into the sack skillfully, and came back with the kitchen knife. Everyone was drooling and swallowing. Because Shen Jian lowered his head at the moment, holding a blood-stained kitchen knife that had just killed 2 ghosts in his hand, and the aura on his body was too terrifying. It's impossible to look straight at. He was afraid that Shen Jian would get angry and kill them too. Sit down, continue to sit down and watch the video, don't scare these ghosts away. Shen Jian warmly greeted everyone to sit down. The movie starts again on the big screen. This time, everyone was no longer interested in watching the movie, and all of them peeked at Shen Jian. There seemed to be countless doubts in my heart, but I didn't know what to say. Brother, are you a Taoist priest? The kind that exorcises ghosts? The man with glasses couldn't hold it any longer and asked in a low voice. Shen Jian glanced at the big screen and fell into the romance routine again. After thinking about it, he explained, I am a player. As for those who exorcise ghosts, we call them ghost controllers. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. This little brother is indeed a strange person. Player, do you mean the panel in front of us? I did see the 4 characters thriller game at the beginning. Enter the game copy and clear the main mission. This is indeed the consistent routine of the game. The man with glasses murmured. What happens after we clear the level? Can we become people like you? Shen Jian shook his head and said, I don't know, because this is the second dungeon to come to the real world. You are just a group of unlucky people. As for whether you can become a player after clearing the level, I can only find out after I collapse here." As he said that, Shen Jian also showed a hint of interest in his eyes. Due to the blockade of Qing City in the last real-world dungeon, there was no one alive after he entered, and he had no way of knowing this after the dungeon collapsed. But this time, this conjecture can be verified. "What about the Ghost Master?" Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. As the name suggests, he is a person who controls powerful ghosts. Can ghosts also be controlled? How can a human body control such a terrifying thing? The man with glasses widened his eyes. So does everyone else. They are being exposed to another side of the world. After knowing that there are ghosts in this world and that they have appeared more than once, everyone has a sense of urgency in their hearts. As the only 7 people left in the number 3 auditorium, each of them has experienced the terror of ghosts. Once the killing law is triggered, humans have no power to resist. Now that they heard that humans still have the power to defeat evil spirits, they couldn't help but be excited. At this time, "Woo!" a burst of women's cries echoed in the screening room. The cries were resentful and harsh. Everyone's body was stiff. "Look up." On the big screen, the picture was frozen again. It was an extremely festive scene. A house is luxuriously decorated, with red lanterns hanging all around and running water mats outside. In the central lobby, 2 large red candles were burning in the main room, emitting fluorescent red candle light. The hall was full of guests and it was very lively. "No, why are you here again? Damn it, are the people in auditorium number 1 lucky, or are they hiding some information? Didn't it mean that there might be evil spirits entering during the decisive battle? This scene should be the plot of the villain forcibly marrying Kayako to celebrate the wedding, but the male protagonist forcefully robs her of the marriage. It is already close to the time of the final battle." The expressions of all the survivors changed drastically. Shen Jian glanced at his title of Ghost Seeing Sorrow, and while he was thoughtful, a hint of excitement flashed across his face. He did not expect that the effect of the title would take effect at this moment. This scene of a room full of guests clearly exceeded the limit of a 2-star copy. Among this group of guests, he saw the shadow of a real red-clad ghost. Shen Jian counted. There are 30 tables in total. There were 5 or 6 fierce ghosts sitting at each table. No one's aura is lower than King II level. If we catch them all, even if they are not worth the loss of one abyss-level ghost, they can make up for most of it. The more he thought about it, the brighter the expression on Shen Jian's face became. A 2-star dungeon can actually achieve as much harvest as a 3-star dungeon. This dungeon mutation with the title of Ghost Seeing Sorrow is so easy to use. If it takes effect a few more times, won't he be too weak to catch ghosts? While thinking, "Woo!" the resentful woman's cries continued to be heard. Supernatural effect. In a trance. They seemed to see the perspective shift from the central lobby to a festive room. In the room, stood a Kayako with disheveled hair, who was changing into a gilded bridal dress. She was locked in this room, isolated and helpless, and her cries of resentment and sadness were intermittent. Soon, Kayako turned around. An extremely blurry face was revealed. Who is this? Isn't she Kayako, the heroine of Ghost Love? Several survivors had doubts in their eyes. As the woman's cries amplified in their hearts, the supernatural fluctuations became more obvious, and Kayako's face gradually became clearer. In the eyes of the man with glasses, it was his girlfriend, wearing a gilded dress with a phoenix crown, reaching out her hand for him to hold. So does everyone else. In their eyes, Kayako became a different person. But without exception, they are the most important people in their lives. For a moment, they let down their guard. With eyes dazed, he left his seat and walked towards the big screen. Woo! The woman's cries continued to echo in the screening room. Then, Kayako looked at the only man who didn't move. The man's eyes were dazed, and he was obviously within the range of her supernatural attack, and he kept mumbling something. She listened carefully. Want to know who is the most important person in this man's eyes? Then, she was struck by lightning. Because this human being was like counting a dozen in a row. Kayako's eyes widened. Today, she actually met a scumbag. The scumbag must die. Then, the supernatural strikes again. Oh, help me. They want to snatch me away and marry me by force. The gloomy and resentful cries of Kayako continued to sound. Almost instantly, the eyes of the 7 survivors turned red, and they all looked at the blurry and unrecognizable figures around them that had snatched away their most beloved people, with endless murderous intent bursting out of their eyes. Grimace in pain. A fight between ordinary people began. Just then, in the eyes of Coconut Milk, the extremely hateful scumbag who kept the fish pond suddenly shouted, "You continue to fight, I will take my wife away," said. Shenjian rushed forward directly. To steal the bride? 7 survivors? They stopped fighting each other and turned around in shock. Yes. They fight each other or something. Just kidnap the bride? Anyway, the bride is already happy with them and is willing to go with them, so what's the point of them fighting each other? Damn it! I was almost overtaken by this despicable figure. The 7 survivors looked at Shenjian angrily and changed their targets one after another, wanting to stop Shenjian and snatch the bride themselves. Gaia Coconut? There's something wrong with this script. See it? Shenjian was also excited and said, "Madam, you see, I have to face so many competitors in order to marry you, do you also want to show me your strengths?" Shenjian didn't care about the 7 survivors at all. He focused all his attention on Kayako, and said with great affection, "Madam, you are a female college student in the dance department. I just want to know one aspect of your ability. Can you do the splits? Can you do the split horse? How about your body flexibility?" Gaia Coconut? I'm a dance major, so of course I can do the splits, I'm pretty good at it. But why do you ask? Wrong. Kayako came to his senses. That's not the point now. The point now is that her script is messed up. All because of this big scumbag. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Bulletin Chigwa. Chapter 271. Looking at Shenjian approaching step by step, Kayako in the wedding room was very angry. This human ruined her perfect plot. She enjoys the feeling of being sought after. According to the normal script, the 8 survivors will fight like a beetle, and in the end only one will be left to become her husband, and then she will torture him to death. This is normal progress. But now, because of Shenjian, the other 7 survivors stopped fighting and all thought about taking her back. She was very dissatisfied with this plot direction. Woo, he wants to hurt me, help me kill him. Kayako's voice suddenly became sad and sharp. Suddenly, the 7 survivors roared like wild beasts and rushed towards Shenjian. Yingui, go take care of them. Shenjian showed no sign of turning around. The words fell. The dark flowing shadow spreading behind Shenjian suddenly started to move. From flat to three-dimensional. Countless black shadows piled up and became a black figure condensed by shadows. Then, he stared straight at the 7 survivors rushing towards him. Everyone. Ghost. This is a ghost. Damn it, a ghost actually came to steal their girlfriend, wife, husband, is this even justified? In the eyes of these survivors, everything is blurry. Only this shadow, which was entirely composed of black, was lifelike. Everyone's expressions froze. The anger on his face suddenly solidified. There was no longer the ferocity that had just been so fierce. If the enemy doesn't move, they won't move. When the enemy makes a move, they run away and plan for the long term. Yinghui took a step forward, and the 7 survivors suddenly turned pale and kept retreating. Kayako. Madam, no one will disturb us now. Shen Jian said as he walked towards the movie screen. That's a curtain. Walking through it is like walking through a soft gauze scarf. Everything in front of Shen Jian has undergone earth-shaking changes. The original screening room was turned into a house. The lanterns and festoons were decorated, and it was extremely festive. A trace of surprise flashed in Shen Jian's eyes. No doubt. He entered a ghost realm. There are countless such small ghost realms in supernatural cinemas. Does each film source represent a small ghost land? Shen Jian looked moved. This supernatural cinema is such a grand spectacle. I'm afraid it's not just a 2-star dungeon as he thought, but the upper limit of the dungeon that comes to the real world is 2-star level. 4 stars? Or is it a 5-star copy? To be able to accommodate so many small ghost realms at the same time without incident, the source behind the supernatural cinema must be the Ghost King. No, it should be a being above ghosts and gods. Only ghosts and gods can make so many fierce ghosts obey at once and run this large dungeon. In other words, in addition to these low-level film sources, there may be more high-end film sources in the supernatural cinema. Each film source represents a small ghost realm, representing the background of a 2-star or 3-star copy. A glimpse of the leopard reveals the terrifying aspects of ghosts and gods. Shen Jian became even more excited. He pushed away the festive wedding room. As soon as I walked in, the door closed automatically. The candles on both sides of the altar table became brighter and brighter, and the entire hall became a strange red. Husband. A mesmerizing and melodious voice came from the inner room. I want. Like a lazy cat, it makes people feel itchy inside, and the body feels extremely hot. Shen Jian became interested and strode forward. Open another door. The charming Kayako in front of her was half lying on the wedding bed, with one fair leg exposed under a bright red half-undressed red robe. Her eyes were extremely seductive, and a trace of dark red light shone in her eyes. Shen Jian's eyes became dazed again. Husband, what do you want? Kayako kept humming softly, as if he was acting coquettishly. Shen Jian walked over with a dazed look in his eyes, with a hint of excitement flushing on his face. At the same time, the hand behind Jiao turned into a ghost claw, and the 5 fingers were all dark red, with a cold aura. Come on, I want. Kayako yelled coquettishly, ghost sounds burst out, and supernatural fluctuations filled the room from the beginning. The 2 candles in the outer room are even more powerful props that can increase supernatural power. With her Xingyi level terror level, even a red level ghost would be affected by her supernatural powers if he stepped into this room without any precautions. Thoughts are confused. Apparently, this human being has been tricked. Influenced by her supernatural powers. Looking at Shen Jian, who was getting closer and closer, a fierce light suddenly appeared in Jiao's eyes. The dark red ghost claws stretched majestically towards Shen Jian's chest. She wanted to open up this human heart and see if it was divided into countless parts. Each part was just right, otherwise how could she see so many important people? Husband, come quickly, I want your heart. The sinister laughter echoed in the room. At first it sounded like a young couple in love acting coquettishly, but suddenly the conversation changed and the sentences became extremely scary and terrifying. Oh! Shen Jian casually knocked off the ghost claw that stabbed Kayako, and said with some surprise, so you want my heart? If you told me earlier, I misunderstood. I thought you would need something that fits your body defects more. Gaia coconut? She was slightly startled. She raised her head suddenly and found that this human being was already standing in front of her, staring down at her. There was only surprise and loss in his eyes, not confusion or trance at all. This human had lied to her again? There was silence for a second. She let out a sinister roar, You deserve. Die. Kayako stretched out two ghost claws again. Snapped. Shen Jian grabbed his wrist with his backhand and locked it on the wedding bed. Kayako panicked. At this time, crunch. There was a sound of pushing the door open. A figure slipped in quietly, and a deep voice slowly sounded. Gaia Coco, I'm here to save you. Shen Jian looked back. This figure is none other than the male protagonist in Ghost Love. Shen Jian stood up. See this. The male ghost was also confused. This script is wrong. In an instant, the male ghost understood something. He looked at Shen Jian with vicious eyes. You have destroyed the script set by the Lord. You are looking for death. Shen Jian was slightly startled. Are you making this up? But if you think about it carefully, isn't everything happening here just a movie? If it's not acting, then it's nothing. But for real-world videos, recording once is enough. And everything here is staged in person. It's like a stage play. You can perform whenever someone needs you. Shen Jian clicked his tongue. He once again refreshed his impression of the ghost and god behind the supernatural cinema. This ghost and god is not only rich and powerful, but also quite good at playing. It truly embodies the saying wasting money and wasting people. Can you call your lord out? Shen Jian asked. Male ghost? He was in a daze for a moment. Are there still people who want to take shortcuts even if they want to die? You, too, want to see my lord? His voice was filled with resentment. The play is staged, but it's also real. Entering this set named Ghost Love, he has been playing the role of the male protagonist all his life, and naturally he will fall in love with the female protagonist, not only him, but also the villain. He, defeat me, then you will be qualified to see the Lord. The male ghost sneered lowly. See this. Shen Jian didn't hesitate, picked up the morning stick and rushed forward. 3 seconds later, the male ghost was dragged aside with a look of despair. I have defeated you, call your lord out quickly. Shen Jian punched the other person's head with a threatening look on his face. Male ghost. I'm just pretending. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. In other words, you can't call out, and you don't even know where your lord is. Shen Jian raised the morning stick and struck it again. Although he didn't think that a half-step red-clad fierce ghost could know the whereabouts of a ghost and god, it was a clue after all, so he listened patiently. He really makes money. He didn't lose anything even if it was fake. It's just luck anyway. But those who deserve to be beaten must still be beaten. With the last blow of the stick, the male ghost completely froze. Shen Jian put the body into a sack. He turned and looked at Kayako again. Kayako. She no longer showed any interest in the drama at this time, but her resentment towards Shen Jian was still undisguised. If you beat him to death, it would be equivalent to recreating everything on this set. The ghost world here will soon dissipate when the time comes. The Lord will definitely notice this abnormal situation, and no matter where you hide, the Lord will follow the source to find you. What? Shen Jian was shocked. To this, Jie Yao was very satisfied with Shen Jian's expression. Isn't it arrogant? Aren't you clamoring for ghosts and gods to come over? Why are you scared now? Haha, it's too late. Kayako was very happy inside. If she couldn't beat him, she would have stepped on this human's face with her 37-sized feet, trampling on his dignity. I'm afraid it's too late now. What, the ghost realm is going to dissipate? Then won't the guests here be gone? Shen Jian's expression changed drastically. Such as mourning and air. Even Jayo ignored it and rushed downstairs. Gaia Coconut? She looked confused. When the ghost world is about to dissipate, why do you focus on your guests? Shouldn't you be crying and begging the ghosts and gods to spare your life? She was dumbfounded. There were bursts of exclamations, wails, and screams from downstairs. It seemed that a demon had blended in downstairs and launched an indiscriminate attack on these people. Last of the last. She only heard Shen Jian's energetic and excited voice. Gois Hung, put these lying ghosts into sacks for me, and be quick. Kayako was listening upstairs. A question mark slowly formed in my heart. And at the same time, after reluctantly packing the banquet guests into 4 sacks, a scarlet panel appeared in front of Shen Jian. The current copy has collapsed. The copy of Supernatural Cinema is closed. The player King Yama has been marked by world-weary ghosts and gods.